According to my completely unscientific statistics, 98% of consumers think foldable phones are beautiful little gadgets. Just kidding. However, this year, Honor, Xiaomi, and Nubia have also joined the foldable phone battle, making the number of brands to choose from suddenly much larger, and the difficulty of picking the right foldable phone for yourself has skyrocketed. Today, I got my hands on foldable phones from 4 different brands, including the Huawei Pocket 2, which has a launch price of $7,499, and the Nubia Flip, which sells for only $29.99. I know you might ask why no OV. Unfortunately, they didn't release any this year. The product line of foldable phones. If you are interested in OV's foldable phone, you can check out our horizontal screen video of foldable phones from last year. On some channels, the prices of the Huawei Pocket 2 and the Xiaomi MIX 4 have become almost identical, with Huawei and Xiaomi fiercely competing at the same price point. I'm already looking forward to it. Since they are called beautiful little gadgets, which brand performs better in terms of appearance? Let's first look at the Huawei Pocket 2 in Rococo White, which is definitely one of the most successful color options. The unique luster of natural mineral powder combined with the round small screen and camera band opening. I think the word gorgeous is the most fitting description. The Nova, which targets young and fashionable consumers, performs quite well. The fresh green color paired with the fishball glue and the rectangular screen will become a favorite for many, though it's unclear if the Pocket's aura is too strong. When placing the Pocket and Nova together, one looks like a noblewoman and the other like a maid, even though their current prices are quite similar. The Nubia, starting at just $29.99, does not fall too far behind in terms of texture. The extensive use of straight lines and strong metallic texture gives me a tough and sharp feeling. I actually quite like the black version of the Nubia Flip, and if you feel the same, raise your hand in the comments. As for Honor and Xiaomi, they look very much alike. The 4-inch screen takes up half of the backspace, making the backs of these two phones look somewhat monotonous and lacking in distinctiveness. However, both manufacturers have quite a few interesting lock screens, which somewhat alleviate the lack of design flair. Overall, they perform well in terms of texture, and even the cheapest Nubia does not make too many compromises in appearance. The unique front and back 4-sided curved glass design of the Xiaomi MIX Flip makes it the thickest among these phones, whether unfolded or folded. However, counterintuitively, it weighs only 192 grams, making it the lightest among these models. The feel in the hand is quite good. Actually, due to the unique form factor of foldable phones, the difference in hand feel among these 5 phones is not as significant as with regular bar phones. Folding only reduces the horizontal storage space of the phone but does not reduce its volume and weight. Additionally, since the mainboard, camera, and outer screen of the foldable screen are all in the upper half of the phone, these 5 phones tend to be top-heavy. Therefore, I tend to hold them slightly higher when using them. It can be quite strenuous to press the bottom buttons on this 21:9 screen. If we categorize these 5 phones based on their outer screens, we have the Honor Magic V Flip and Xiaomi. They can clearly be categorized together, as they all involve the design of the outer screen to some extent, enhancing practicality by enlarging the outer screen. In actual use, they indeed perform similarly, with interaction logic and UI design close to that of the inner screen. Although not all apps can run on the outer screen, commonly used apps have been adapted for replying to messages or checking maps, which is sufficient for this small screen. Xiaomi has done a better job this time. When typing, flipping the phone provides a full-size keyboard, which is more user-friendly for people with large hands. Additionally, the MIX 4 has an extra earpiece and microphone. This might be the only product in the world right now that can achieve all the functionalities of a smartphone using just the outer screen. Xiaomi has indeed put a lot of thought into it. As for the other 3, although the shapes and sizes of their outer screens vary, they can perform the same tasks, such as taking selfies, checking notifications, weather, and calendar. Of course, this doesn't mean that small outer screens are inferior to large ones. They are simply 2 different product concepts. Ultimately, when consuming content, like browsing TikTok or watching Bilibili, people still use the inner screen. Personally, I think a larger outer screen is definitely better, but I can also accept a good-looking small outer screen, except for Xiaomi. Apart from using a 21.49 ratio, the other phones all have a 21:9 screen ratio. Visually, Xiaomi's inner screen appears slightly longer and narrower. The MIX Flip is the only phone with both inner and outer screens reaching a 1.5K level with a PPI of 460, providing a consistent experience whether using the inner or outer screen, which deserves praise. The quality of the inner screen is also a point of concern for everyone. The Honor Magic V Flip has a manual maximum brightness of 980 nits and a full screen peak brightness of 1690 nits, which is the highest level among these generations of phones. However, the default vivid color temperature of Honor is somewhat on the cooler side. The color separation is not the most accurate either. When set to standard color, you will get the most accurate color performance among these phones. It is actually very difficult to compare the outer screen quality of the 5 phones horizontally, as it is quite inappropriate to compare screens with huge differences in function and size together. Here we only compare the outer screen quality of Xiaomi and Honor. Xiaomi has some advantages in clarity, but Honor makes a comeback in brightness performance. It's hard for me to say which one performs better. Finally, we come to the crease part that everyone is concerned about, so let's get straight to the conclusion. Huawei leads significantly in crease control, followed closely by Nova. Xiaomi and Honor are slightly worse. Nubia's performance is the worst among these 5 phones. How significant are the differences between these 5 phones during normal screen usage? Actually, instead of worrying about creases, it's better to be concerned about the durability of the original screen protectors. These soft protectors are easily scratched during daily use, and even with normal use, they may age over time. They cannot be replaced by the user and must be handled through official after-sales service. This is manageable in big cities, but in smaller cities without direct service centers, sending the phone for repair can be quite troublesome. The hinge designs of these phones are all quite good, being smooth and delicate, and they can all be used comfortably at a common 90-degree angle. When it comes to taking selfies, Xiaomi's performance is commendable. It can hover between approximately 15 degrees to 135 degrees, which is the widest range among these phones. If we must discuss the subjective topic of hinge feel, I prefer the damping feel of Honor's hinge, which is quite stable. Listen. These 5 smartphones were all released in 2024, but their overall configurations are quite diverse. Xiaomi uses a flagship chip, while Nubia and Nova use entry-level chips. I'm really curious about how these chips will perform given the limited cooling area in foldable phones. In the Honor of Kings test, the Xiaomi MIX Flip is the only phone among these that supports half-open mode, and its Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 chip demonstrated excellent energy efficiency. In the next test, Peace Elite, both Xiaomi and Huawei Pocket 2 performed impressively. With the lowest temperature and power consumption, it stands in the first tier. While the other 3 devices don't perform as impressively, after testing light gaming, let's see how they perform in more demanding scenarios. In Genshin Impact Sumeru City, Huawei Pocket 2 significantly outperforms other models, achieving a staggering 59.73 frames per second at a power consumption of 3.6 watts. Even the upcoming models might not reach this level. Perhaps Huawei has worked some magic on this phone. The performance of Nubia and Nova isn't much to talk about. Even though their scheduling is aggressive among mid-range phones, their weak chip performance limits their capabilities. The frame rate didn't even reach 30 frames. In the Star Rail test, Huawei's magic might have failed. Overall power consumption performance was not as good as the Honor, which uses the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1. Due to the high pressure of this game, the average power consumption exceeded the cooling capacity of these phones, resulting in considerable stuttering on all 5 devices, making the gaming experience quite mediocre. To summarize, these phones are only suitable for light gaming. Relatively speaking, Xiaomi, with its flagship chip, offers a better overall experience. In terms of cameras, each brand has come up with different solutions. The Huawei Pocket 2 uses an IMX 766 main camera along with an equivalent 80mm telephoto and a wide-angle lens. Notably, the Huawei Pocket 2 also features an ultraviolet hyperspectral lens that supports sunscreen detection. Huawei's imaging setup is indeed fully equipped, justifying its flagship pricing. Xiaomi uses an 800-megapixel Light Hunter main camera paired with a 47mm telephoto lens, which is a golden combination for everyday portrait photography. Honor does not use a main camera plus portrait telephoto setup, but instead opts for an IMX 906 main camera combined with a wide-angle macro lens. Nova and Honor have a similar 1.516-inch YYYP main camera combined with a wide-angle macro lens. Personally, I still prefer the telephoto lens on the Nubia Flip. Using a 26mm main camera paired with a 2-megapixel tactical depth sensor, it's been a while since we've seen such a dual camera setup. For everyday recording, this is definitely sufficient. On the downside, a foldable budget phone is included in the sample comparison, and we use the default settings of the cameras for all. Notably, Xiaomi's color style cannot be turned off, so I manually set it to like a sound. Let's look at the first set of photos. Both Huawei devices show a slight magenta tint on the white buildings, which is quite true to the actual scene. In the details of the leaves at the bottom of the image, the older brother leaves Nubia behind by quite a margin. Nubia appears somewhat overly bright, aggressively increasing the brightness of the buildings, which brings a lot of noise in the dark areas, making the image look a bit dirty. The detail of the leaves at the edges of the image is also the worst among these devices, which is indeed characteristic of some budget phones. Xiaomi's overall image style aligns very well with my naked eye perception, though its noise control is weaker, resulting in the least amount of smudging. I really like this style. In the second set of sample photos taken in well-lit conditions, apart from Nubia humorously capturing the grille as an LED screen, the performance of each brand was quite similar. Not only was the visual impression close, but the differences in detail were also not significant. When zooming in on fine details, Huawei has a slight edge. Imagine you are capturing the golden hour as the sun sets. Which smartphone can better showcase the city under the sunset? Among the 5 photos displayed here, which one do you think looks better? Next is a set of samples taken under warm yellow streetlights. Xiaomi performs well in low light, with dark areas appearing appropriately dark and accurate light reproduction. Although I had high hopes for the Pocket 2, it performed well in detail and noise control, but failed to reproduce the warm yellow lighting. The post-processing of roadside plants also seemed a bit overdone, making it look somewhat distorted. In night photos with many point light sources, the results were similar to the above. Huawei's post-processing somewhat affected the visual impression, and I preferred Xiaomi's performance. Now, let's talk about the battery. battery. On paper, the largest battery is in the Honor. However, with these various configurations in the small foldable phones, simply comparing capacity is meaningless. Let's take a look at our latest battery life test model. After a 5-hour battery life test, apart from the Nubia, the differences among the other phones were not very significant. Let's continue to increase the pressure and conduct more demanding test models. The Honor Magic Vi Flip lasted another 2 hours and 1 minute, ranking first. The Nubia Flip, with the smallest battery, unsurprisingly performed the worst, lasting only 1 hour and 30 minutes. The other phones, all with battery capacities around 4,500 mAh, had similar results. It seems that at this stage, the key factor affecting smartphone battery life is still the battery itself. Except for Nubia, the charging power of the other brands is very consistently around 66 watts, which is a balance between heat generation and charging speed. A relatively suitable charging power in the 1% to 100% charging test showed that the Huawei Pocket 2 and Nubia Flip took the shortest time, only 39 minutes. Considering the differences in battery capacity among these phones, it is clear that the Huawei Pocket 2 has the fastest charging speed, followed by Xiaomi. After watching this video, you should have a general understanding of the current small foldable phones. In my opinion, both the Huawei Pocket 2 and Xiaomi MIX Flip are quite worth choosing. They are close in price and have their own unique features, making them reliable choices. If your budget is slightly lower, the Honor Magic V Flip is also a solid option. Actually, it's quite balanced now. Let's revisit that old topic. Is Xiaoju's phone still a small waist? Xiaomi and Honor have done very well in terms of external screen functionality, and it might be the best solution for this product form at the moment. However, I think the biggest issue with these small folding phones is not whether the folding is cumbersome or the external screen is easy to use, but rather that the basic experience is hindered by internal space and folding form. The battery has to be split into two parts. The camera can't use a large sensor, and there are even more challenging thermal design issues. These are the core technical difficulties that prevent Xiaoju from being widely used. When will these be completely resolved? When Xiaoju's basic experience can rival that of a regular bar phone, I believe that will truly be the era of Xiaoju. Alright, that's all for this episode's review of Xiaoju. If you found it helpful, feel free to follow, like, save, and share. Also, don't forget about our pinned giveaway post on Bilibili. This is YLab, I'm Xiaoran, and I'll see you in the next episode.